So, today we're going to be talking about factoring polynomials. More specifically, we're going to be factoring quadratic equations, or expressions, I should say. Okay, so today we're going to be factoring polynomials. That's our learning target. We're going to be successful when we can factor using the GCF and when we can factor a polynomial using guess and check. Sometimes there's a combination where we have to use GCF and guess and check, not just one or the other. All right, so a quick kind of review. Greatest common factor is the greatest common integer that divides into each number equally with no remainder. Okay, so no decimals, no numbers bigger than one of these smaller numbers. Okay, so remember variables are placeholders for unknown integers, so they can also be a part of the GCF. So in the first example, we're looking at 8 and we're looking at 20. The GCF would be 4. For the simple fact that 4 divides into 8, 4 divides into 20. Here's how I got that number. 8. When you look at 8, numbers that divide into 8 are either 8, 4, 2, or 1. 8, 4, 2, or 1. 8 does not go into 20. It cannot be anything higher than 8 because, again, we're talking about greatest common factor, so it has to be either that number or lower. 4 does go into 20, which makes 4 the greatest. 2 is a common factor, and then 1 is really not really a greatest common factor. It's just if there's nothing in common, it's a 1. All right. Between x to the 5th and x to the 3rd, when we talk about these, we got to think about what it means. X to the 5th means x times x times x times x times x 5 times, whereas x to the 3rd means itself 3 times. So, as we do this, what do they have in common? They have 3 x's in common. And x times x times x is x to the 3rd. So the GCF would be x to the 3rd. So when we talk about GCF, when we're talking about variables, we're talking about the one with the lowest exponent. Okay? It has to be all or none when we talk about GCF. So in this one, I have x squared, I have x. My lowest variable is just the x. So when we talk about GCF, it has to have an x in it. And then between 9 and 27, again, go to the small number because it's either the greatest possible answer is the lower number. So it's either going to be 9 or a factor of 9. So I look at 9. 9 does go into 27 because 27 is divisible by 9, which is 3. So the GCF would be 9x. Okay. So now that's just labeling the GCF. Here's how we actually factor using the GCF. All right. So in the first one, we got, again, it has to be all or none. I look in the first one and I have 3x squared, negative 12, and I got 15. X is off the table because this is missing an x value. So it cannot be x because all of them don't have x. So our GCF, when we look at the numbers, again, the lowest number is 3. Does 3 go into 12? Does 3 go into 15? The answer is yes, it goes into both of them. So my GCF would actually be 3. It doesn't always have to be that whole number. Again, it could be part of it if we have something bigger than 3. So now when I factor using it, the GCF always slides on the outside. So the GCF was 3, it goes on the outside. Now we take the GCF and we divide each term by it. 3x squared divided by 3 leaves just x squared. Negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4x. And then plus 15 divided by 3 is 5. We're going to check, distribute in, and I can check my answer. So the greatest thing about this is if you do it right, you can always see 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times negative 4x is minus 12x. 3 times 5 is 15. It does go back to the original. So our factored form is 3x squared minus 4x plus 5. Okay, now that's what we would do for just GCF. So if I go to the next one and I talk about GCF again, This time we gotta look at the numbers and x's. They both have an x, so we're gonna have x in it. Again, lowest one is just x. 2 and 8, GCF is 2. So I put my little line, 2x. What's left over? Divide by 2x. Divide by 2x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. X squared divided by 1x is going to be just an x left over. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. X's are going to cancel out. Quick little check. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x. It matches. There is our answer. Okay, so that's how you would factor with just GCF. Now, here comes guess and check. As we do guess and check, again, it can be a combination of GCF and guess and check. So as the name applies, we're going to guess, and then we're going to check our answers, making sure we go backwards. Okay? Always ask yourself, is there a GCF first? In the first one, this doesn't have a number, which means there cannot be a number involved. They all don't have an x, so there is no GCF. So we go into the guess and check part. Guess and check is breaking it into factored form of a quadratic. All right. In this first slot, it is what multiplies to ax squared. Okay. So if we remember standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. So what multiplies to x squared is simply x times x. In the back slot, it is what multiplies to c. In this case, we only have one option. 2 is only 2 and 1. So plus 2 plus 1. Now the check part. If I'm to check this, you would multiply the whole thing out to make sure you go all the way back. I'm going to break it down a little bit quicker for you because you don't need to check everything. We know x times x gives us the x squared. You know 2 times 1 gives us the 2. What I would just say is check the outsides, which is just 1x. X times 1 is 1x. 2 times x is 2x. When you add them together, you get 3x. Correct number, but we want a negative 3x. So symbol switch is if you have everything else is right. X times x, x squared. 2 times 1 is the 2. You have the right number, but the wrong sign. We're going to change the signs in the problem. X times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is our negative 1x. Negative 2 times x is our negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 1 is our positive 2. Okay, so it doesn't change anything besides the sign. Then this would be our final answer. All right. Moving on to part B. GCF. In this case, it does have a GCF. It is 2. So we're going to factor that out first, just like we did above. I'm not going to write all the little steps in here. 2 divided by 2 is just going to give us the x squared. 16 divided by 2 is 8x. 30 divided by 2 is 15. Now, unlike above, we didn't have guess and check yet, so we didn't do it. This slot stays the same, so that's going to be the 2. And now we're going to do guess and check for the inside. Again, I'm looking at x squared, so we have x times x. This time I have 15. I could use 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. Now I'm trying to get to 8x, so my best guess is probably the 3 and the 5, and I'm going to make that guess right here. If it doesn't work, we're going to go to 1 and 15. And now we're going to check. X times 5 is 5x. 3 times x is 3x, which is 8x. It matches, correct sign. That is it factored. The only time a number is on the outside is if it's the GCF. If it's not the GCF, there is no number on the outside. So here's 2 more. Here we go. This time again we have x squared, so there is no GCF. I'm sorry, should start off with that. X squared and 25, there is no GCF. So we make our 2 parentheses. We go x squared, x times x. We have negative 25. In order to get to a negative 25, we need one positive, one negative. So 1 and negative 25, 5 and negative 5. Again, I'm trying to get to 0 bx. If I use these two, they're kind of a little farther apart. I'm going to pick the ones closer together as my educated guess. Plus 5 minus 5. Check it. X times negative 5x. 5 times x is 5x. They cancel out, which means you have your answer. What happens if you don't get it right? You just make a new guess. All right. So now this one's a little bit different. It again does not have a GCF because 2 cannot go into 11 with no remainder. So it's not going to be x and x this time. Now the ax squared term is 2x squared, which means we have to figure out what multiplies to 2x squared. 2x squared is 2x times x. So we're going to make our parentheses around that. Again, there can't be a number on the outside because there's no GCF. So we're going to use 2x. We're going to use x. Now, the next piece is we're going to be looking at numbers that multiply to 12. So we got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. You can take off one pair right off the bat. 2 and 6 cannot work. If you have no GCF, you cannot have a GCF in the parenthesis. With 2 and 6, if I put a 2 in here, I have a GCF of 2, which means it does not work. 6 cannot go in here. It'll give me a GCF of 2 again inside the parentheses, so it will not work either. 12 cannot go over here, and 4 cannot go over here. So I only have 2 guesses. Either this side is 1 and that side's 12, or this is 3 and that's 4. Now again, I'm trying to get to 11. I have to multiply something by 2. So I don't want it to be this one because if I multiply by 2, I'm going to jump ahead. So I'm going to use the 3 and the 4. Has to be in this order because 4 over here gives me a GCF of 2. And then I'm going to check it out. 2x times 4 is 8x. 3 times x is 3x. 8 plus 3 is 11x. And that means this is our factored form. All right. Again, worst case, if you make a guess, it does not work out, try something new. With the 2 there, you can flip it. With these, you can, it doesn't matter because x plus 5, x minus 5, and then switching that one is the same thing. So x plus 5, x minus 5, x minus 5, x plus 5, those are the same factors. Last type of question that could pop up is given a factor, find the other factor. You know this is 2x plus 3. What goes in the other side? Well, you know that the first 2 have to multiply to 8x squared. So if you have 2x, 8 divided by 2 is 4x. And then you know the back numbers have to multiply to the c value. 3 times what is negative 15, or negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. So my other factor would be 4x minus 5. All right. That is factoring in a very quick nutshell. We're going to spend a lot of time practicing. Have a good day.